I was born to a 17-year-old girl in Chester, near Liverpool. She made the hard decision to put me up for adoption. I was taken in by a family in Sheffield. My adoptive father was an English professor and linguist at the university. My adoptive mother was a poet and an artist. Ours was a house of books and ideas and debates around the dinner table. I grew up loved, but I was restless, stubborn, loud, and always running toward whatever looked like freedom. I was a tomboy who preferred horses, engines, buses, and the smell of diesel over dresses and ribbons. I was raised Christian at the request of my birth mother. I went to Sunday school and I loved the stories of the prophets. They stayed with me, the courage, the tests, the sense that God was guiding people through storms they didn't choose. But even as a teenager, I was the one with my hand in the air asking hard questions. By 15, the contradictions in the Bible bothered me. I went to a priest and asked him plainly, if this is the word of God, why does it contain contradictions? He told me to believe with my heart. I said belief should be more than a feeling. If God is perfect, his word should be preserved, clear, consistent. I never stopped believing in God. I just couldn't make the pieces of Christianity fit for me. So I drifted on the edge of faith for a while, believing in God but not committing to any path. At 16, my rebellion peaked. I left home, moved into my own flat, and thought I was free. Freedom is intoxicating until it's frightening. I mixed with the wrong people. One night, the trouble I'd been circling finally landed. Some men were sent to teach me a lesson. They came into my apartment, they hit me, they took my car and my money, they left me with fear that hummed in my bones. I couldn't go back there. I couldn't sleep in that place again. I ran to the safest person I knew, a Muslim friend. She had been with me that night and she said, "Don't worry, come to my house, stay with me." I went. I was shaken, exhausted, quiet in a way I had never been quiet before. In her house, there weren't many books on the table. There was one, a Qur'an with Arabic on one side of the page and English on the other. I asked if I could look at it. She said, "Yes, but wash your hands first." That request, simple as it was, felt like a door. Respect before access. I opened the Qur'an and met old friends, the prophets I loved from Sunday school. The stories were there, familiar and different at once, cleaner, clearer, untouched by the arguments I had seen before. I felt my mind lean in. I asked my friend questions, rapid fire, the way I do. How does this connect to what I learned? Why is this different? What does Islam say about this point and that one? She took me to her neighbor. He listened and said, "Give me some time." He came back with answers anchored in verses and evidence. He mentioned things that lined up with science. Then he said the sentence that landed in me like a key turning. This was revealed to an illiterate man in the desert nearly 1,400 years ago. If this book was consistent, preserved, rich with knowledge, and carried by a man who could not read or write, then where did it come from? The question didn't scare me, it steadied me. He gave us a film to watch, The Message. I walked into the room at the end in time to hear the call to prayer from the top of the Kaaba. The Adhan pierced a place in me I didn't know existed. It wasn't sentimental. It was recognition, like something I'd been running away from turned out to be home. Warmth moved through me that didn't come from me. It was like my soul stood up and said, "Finally." I told my friend, "I want to become Muslim." This was before September 11th. Converting then was different. People were more curious than afraid. My father thought it was a phase I'd grow out of. My mother worried I would be oppressed, that I wouldn't be able to work, that I'd disappear under rules I didn't understand. They watched. They waited for me to crash into regret. But Islam grounded me. It made me think more, not less. It made me softer, not weaker. I became kinder. I stopped fighting the world just to prove I could. My father saw the change. My mother saw that I was not being erased. I was being refined. The first challenge was knowledge. I had the shahada on my tongue and certainty in my heart, but I didn't know how to pray. I begged my friends, "Teach me salah." Days went by. People said, "Inshallah, soon." I was desperate. I wanted to stand before God properly. I wanted to put my head where hearts are humbled. No one was free. No one knew how to teach a beginner well enough. My loneliness grew teeth. Then God sent a man in a phone booth. I was walking by. He looked at me, a big man, mixed race, strong. He opened the door and said, "Are you Muslim?" I said yes. He said, "Wait here." He phoned someone, then came out and held the receiver toward me. "Here's Sister Tracy. Talk to her." Over the phone, a sister I had never met taught me how to pray. Stand like this, say this, bow now, place your head like this. I copied her words and her movements in real time, with a payphone cord stretching like a lifeline between us. That was my first prayer, on a pavement guided by a voice. Allah gave me what I needed exactly when I needed it. I learned slowly and then all at once. I learned wudu in winter with cold water that bit and woke me up to discipline. I learned surahs with my mouth making sounds that didn't belong to my childhood and felt my heart move toward a language I couldn't yet speak. I learned to fast and found a quiet power in hunger, a sharpening of the mind and a softening of the heart. I learned that hijab wasn't a cloth for hiding, but a commitment to dignity and obedience that wrapped me in purpose. I loved buses since I was a kid, so I trained as a driver. I became the first veiled female bus driver in the UK. I wore my uniform and my hijab, and I drove my route. People stared. Some smiled, some whispered, some tested me with comments thrown like stones, little ones that sting because they're meant to. Can you see in that? What's under there? Go back to where you came from. I kept my hands at 10 and 2, my eyes on the mirrors, my voice steady. Good morning. Day ticket or single. If you want to dismantle a stereotype, be excellent at your job. I pulled up on time. I greeted everyone. I learned regulars' names. I memorized who needed the ramp and who needed patience. Islam didn't make me smaller. It made me a servant in the best sense of the word, serving God by serving people well. Then 9/11 happened, and the air changed. Curiosity curdled into suspicion. The headlines trained strangers' eyes on me before they heard my voice. Islamophobia isn't just shouted slurs. It's the long look, the tightened mouth, the seat that stays empty next to you on a bus that's full. I felt it. We all did. I made a decision. I wouldn't argue in anger. I would invite with clarity. I would answer questions. If someone said, "Why do you cover?" I'd say, "For God, for modesty, for focus. It's my choice and my joy." If someone said, "What do you think about freedom?" I'd say, "Freedom isn't doing whatever I feel. It's aligning my life with what is true." Sometimes people were ready to hear that, sometimes they weren't. My job was the same either way: show Islam as it really is by being Muslim as I really should be. New Muslims often talk about loneliness. It's real. You lose circles, you lose easy belonging. Festivals feel different. Christmas passes with ghosts of old habits. Eid arrives and you don't yet know where to go, what to cook, when to laugh. You stand in the back of a mosque trying to fit your feet into a line that won't make space for you because everyone thinks someone else will move. If that's you, I know that ache. Take it to Allah before you take it to people. Make dua in the language of your need. Say, "Guide me, teach me, place for me friends who love you more than they love me." Then look for the doors He opens: phone booths, strangers, sisters, teachers, pages that hold the answer to a question you haven't yet formed. I learned to separate Islam from Muslims when I needed to. People fail, Islam doesn't. I learned to seek knowledge properly. I sat with teachers. I asked better questions. I discovered that certainty grows when you water it with evidence and sincerity. I learned that the Qur'an never punishes questions asked to get closer to truth. It only warns against questions asked to mock or to stall obedience. So ask. But when you receive, respond. My parents softened. They saw me build a life. They saw me work. They saw me laugh with my friends and hold babies and decorate for Eid. They saw me respect them, not less than before, but more. My father and I had long conversations about language, about translation, about how meaning moves from one tongue to another without breaking when the source is protected. The preservation of the Quran impressed him. My mother watched me tie my scarf and said, "You look like yourself." She meant I looked steady. On the bus, I met everyone: nurses finishing night shifts, teenagers rapping softly to themselves, men with hands cracked from work, women with shopping bags and stories. Sometimes passengers asked me about Islam at red lights. What do you eat in Ramadan? How do you pray at work? I kept answers simple. Sometimes I'd say, when we break our fast, we often start with dates and water. Once a woman brought me a small box of dates the next day. She said, I wanted to see what they taste like. We shared one each during my break. Dawa can be this small and this human. I don't romanticize hardship. The night I was attacked was brutal. The early days of being Muslim were confusing. The comments on the bus hurt. But if you ask me where the turning points were, I can name them. The first time I opened the Qur'an and recognized the prophets without the contradictions that had pushed me away. The sentence about revelation to an unlettered prophet, the Adhan in the message that made my soul stand up, the first prayer taught through a payphone, the first day I wore hijab to work and still did my job well, the first time someone who mistrusted me smiled back because I didn't flinch. If you are searching, don't be afraid of your questions. Put them in your hands and hold them up to the light of revelation. If something is true, it can bear your weight. If you are new to Islam, don't measure the religion by those who fail it. Seek those who live it well, and when you can't find them, be one of them. Learn the prayer even if you learn it phrase by phrase with shaky pronunciation. Allah hears the intention behind the effort. Learn to say, I don't know, but I will find out, and then really find out. Learn to keep your promises. Learn to say sorry. Learn to forgive. These are not small things. They are the pillars beneath the roof of a life. I still love buses. I still love the feeling of a route well run, of doors opening and closing with the rhythm of a day, of getting people where they need to go. That's a metaphor I don't mind living inside. Islam gave me a map and a destination. It also gave me the courage to ask for directions when I'm lost. I don't have to pretend I know where I'm going. I have to ask, listen, follow, correct, and keep moving. I was a child who wouldn't sit still. I was a teenager who ran from home. I was a young woman who took punches in a flat and found safety in a friend's house with one book on the table. I am a Muslim who believes God guided me through every door, even the ones that creaked and scared me. If you are standing on the threshold of this faith, know this: Allah is not waiting to catch you out. He is inviting you in. Walk through, wash your hands, open the book, ask your questions, listen for the call. When you hear it, answer. Then stand, bow, and put your head on the ground. Start there, start now.